That is not on purpose.
Welcome
Welcome.
to One Idea. I subconsciously always get the finger from Gemma.
I'm always doing this to Laura. A bit of subliminal, what I really think of you.
Or maybe what you think of what we're doing, of course.
No, well, let's go into that. But first of all, you were about to share with me it's been a journey since yesterday. Um,
I think it's been a journey since our last episode, our last catch up. I can't remember if it was our last catch up or our last conversation actually now when it started.
mm,
Um, but I think so. I don't know if you want to go first. I will go first, but it's kind of going to probably be a bit back to front
mhm,
because it's from your reaction that is why I'm feeling what I'm feeling.
mm,
So I think we spoke last episode about our resistance and our feelings of shitness and whatever, all that stuff. We will
yeah,
probably go into it in some way again.
yeah,
But I think it's like the purpose of going back to the beginning, we were really excited and connected about what we were doing and believed in what we were doing, whatever that even means. But I just think it was free and exciting. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And I think so. I've been reflecting because I've done many of projects and things in my
Mm,
life, and there's always that like new relationship energy or something
mhm,
like that, when there's no baggage or ideas or um, it's a dream at that point. So it's what you want in your mind.
mm,
Um, and doing something with someone obviously is a relationship. So it's like we're even though we've been friends for so long,
mm.
it's like it starts its own
A new
relationship.
aspect of the relationship.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. And I think also because we have been friends for so long, and there's been an honesty of where you're sitting in it, and I'm feeling a lot of those things too. But I think so. You've had resistance from my point of view
Mm,
in the last couple of weeks, which I agree with and I feel the same. But then what has happened, which is why I called you, I think, last week and said that I can push for a certain point
mm,
and then I will retreat.
mm,
Because I think what happens in general for me is if I feel that there is a disinterest, which I know it's not a disinterest, it's a pulling away for the reasons of what's going on the inside. But in the past, I would have interpreted that as not interested in wanting to do it.
yeah. Okay.
And then that feels like a rejection.
Mm,
And then so it makes me feel like, and that's why I must pull away because it's like, well, I feel rejected, even though you haven't rejected me as such. It's that your energy pulls away and then I put the wall
internalize it.
up because it's like, well, I don't want to get hurt in this. I'm not going to put myself out there if you're not going to put yourself out there. And this is the pattern my whole life. So I think because we have a deeper relationship and I've been able to see what's going on for you,
Yeah.
I've been able to understand why I'm having these feelings. And probably in every relationship I've been in, or every project or creative project, whatever it is, there's always been that shit coming up for other people too. But
Mm,
I've interpreted it as a rejection, or I've interpreted it as a um, hit on myself.
yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. You've internalized it as you are the issue
Or
here,
or
or
I want something that person doesn't want, and then therefore I'm
mm,
pushing that person
mm,
in a way that they actually don't want. Does that make
yeah,
sense?
yeah. It does make sense. It does
And
make
I
sense.
think so. I felt that yesterday in our conversation, um, because then I start maybe overcompensating. I'm like, how can I, make this clearer and easier for us to move forward, especially because I know what you're feeling.
Mm,
And so now I'm like, not doing damage control as such, but trying to get clearer on what we want to do so it doesn't feel as unknown or something, or maybe put more control over it or something. And so then
just got to do that.
That is the dog. She's just going to tell the dog to stop barking and go do what you need to do. Yeah, now she's coming back. And you're back. You're back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just told the recording that you were going to the dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so because I'm seeing the other side of the process, like as in both brains are or both hearts, whatever we want to call it, are sort of open, and I can see what's going on. Yeah, I internalize that, or I interpret that as not interested, don't want to do it. And I know that there is a resistance, but I know it's not about those things, but I interpret it that way.
Yeah.
And then that's what pulls me away, because then I'm like, fuck that. I'm not going to put myself out there. If you're not going to put yourself out there, fuck that. I'm not going to do it. Done.
Yeah.
And it's happened in everything I've done. I do push through it, but I haven't ever been able to name it so clearly. I don't think
see
before.
it for what's actually happening. So
yes,
this is the first time maybe you've got what your experience has been and what you do versus like the reality of what I particularly in this instance am going through, and those two things don't actually align. Like your pattern of behavior is not aligning with what reality is.
Yeah. Well, my feelings aren't aligning with reality.
Yeah.
Like what I'm feeling about the situation. And I think just in general, there is so much of these kind of things coming up for me at the moment. This is just another one of those things. And I think also in the past, my other reaction would be to go into judgment and start criticizing the other person, not knowing the history or what's actually going on for them. And also because I probably wasn't as close with them, or I didn't understand them, or maybe didn't respect them or trust them as much as I do with you. So I'm looking back at myself more, whereas I would look at the other person more.
Yeah.
And point the blame on the other person.
Yeah, wow. That's interesting that that's what you were feeling, because I didn't know that that's what you were feeling. Obviously, you've been realizing it.
I'm realizing it in live time. And also I think what I meant when I called you to say like I have a certain way of pushing is because that's what obviously I then default the other way. As in pushing, as in saying like, come on, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this. Because then I start internalizing it as rejection.
Yeah. And I guess for me, that is a familiar, like yesterday on the phone call that we had, we were talking about what we might discuss today, and you had a particular idea that I was like, oh, my initial reaction is no because of these things, and we sort of were just nutting that out. But I felt the energy from you that I've felt in the past before as well, or I've seen you with other people as well, where I feel there's a and it's probably everything that you're talking about right now. It's that kind of, I felt almost like you're a little bit pissed off with me. And that's, and I sort of just, for me, I also was like, well, I want to make sure that I, am true to what I'm feeling and what I'm saying, and don't try and people please in this moment either, even though I feel a little bit of pressure, or I feel a little bit of like it's where we're coming against, or we're coming with two different opinions, because like what we have on our side is a very long relationship that's loving and supportive of one another. So I know that that's also the safety net. So it's probably a really good opportunity for both of us to feel through these moments that with
Yeah,
other people we don't have that relationship with, it
that's
might go
right.
a very different way. You might have left by now. I might
Yeah,
have left by now because of my
yeah,
fear, or, or feeling like I'm disappointing you, or so it's really interesting to allow our conflicts within ourselves and differing opinions to come out in a way that we can then like pull apart and go, oh, that's what I'm getting the opportunity to know what that is.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what I was saying, is that in the past I would have pointed the finger
Mm.
because that's easier to do, I guess. And I think the annoyance that you felt was the rejection, and like, well, what do you want to bring to this then? Like,
Yeah.
and that's the feeling that I probably start to dominate in, is when I feel maybe like I don't know what I'm feeling in the relationship or where I sit in the relationship, then I overcompensate and then I will start to bulldoze.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's how I've gotten things done in the past, is like bulldozing through,
Mm.
or like I sense a, like, let's call it an uncomfortable feeling, because I didn't know what it was initially. Like, I've had to process it over the last day to figure out exactly what it was. Couldn't name it in the very beginning. But then it's like in past situations, there's just a buildup of these uncomfortable
Yeah.
feelings.
Yeah.
And then I don't want to do any of it anymore.
Yeah.
Like, and then that, even though the work or the idea or the thing was great, it's like there's too much,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
muck
Yeah. Icky
attached to it.
feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've been going through the icky feelings just in, like we've talked about already, the icky
Yeah.
feelings of doing it, wondering why we're doing this at the end of the day. And that, I mean, I guess we can touch on like what we were talking about yesterday, where
Well, yeah, I think now let's rewind back a bit,
yeah,
because these feelings have all come from me understanding more what you've been feeling over the last week,
yeah,
2
which
weeks.
for me, I was processing kind of all of that, which I talked about last week, of feeling like a real off-putting judgment on myself. What are you doing? Why are you doing this? You should just be helpful and be someone like, what have you got to share? What have you got to say? All of those things came up, and in discovering those feelings, usually my go-to would be to stop, leave the situation, run away, run for the hills. And in not doing that, in continuing to go on, I was describing it to the girls, our friendship group, in a voice message or video message, about it being like a cement, like a lump of cement somewhere in my heart or in my body that has just worn, really, really dried up and really solid over the years. And that's my expression. That's my either creative or my expression of who I am and my expression of myself. Not in a way that's helpful for others specifically. So my job, I'm a carer. I'm a carer in my nature, in the people that that are around me. That's the thing that I've discovered is probably my ego's safety point. I do believe in caring. I do believe in um, loving those amongst us who need it the most, and all of that sort of thing. It's a big core belief of mine, but it's also my safety spot. And what my really unsafe spot is my expression of really who I am in a public space. And public could be literally just people I don't know very well, or on this podcast, or putting myself out in a creative or in some way to express myself. So I've found,
Well, in a way that's your voice, in a way
yeah,
that's not hiding behind someone else, in a way
that's
that's
right.
not, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a way that you're at the front, not behind. It's that
Yeah.
that service or whatever you want to call it, I feel like it's being behind someone.
Yeah, and it's also, it comes naturally to me. I do enjoy it, and I also, it's an easy. I get a lot out of it, and I see that the people who I do care for get a lot out of it. So it's this really lovely exchange that I get a lot out of. But this particular one has always made me feel so sick. So the cement, I feel, is kind of getting a little bit of like crumbling around it, and it's starting to shift a bit. I also mentioned to you and the girls that my daughter, who is also very similar to me in that way, but she learns guitar, and she went and did a guitar recital the other night, and when she got there, her guitar teacher had said, "Oh, so the other two members of your group couldn't turn up tonight, so do you want to do it on your own, or do you want to do it with me?" And for my daughter, it's a really huge deal for her to get up and perform. Like, she, with a previous teacher, didn't want me to leave the room. She's 10 years old. She didn't want me to leave the room. So this teacher created a really safe, great space for these kids performing the other night, and it was a real work in progress. And I watched all these young people of differing ages get up and make mistakes in front of people and keep going and learn. Oh dear. Yeah, it was such a beautiful thing to just to see, not a polished, perfect performance, but a place where these kids could be comfortable with working it out in front of others and not having to have everything perfect. And it obviously really rang true for me, who's someone who's, if I express it, it must be perfect first. I must know it all. I must have it all sorted. I must not say anything out of place. I must not ruffle any feathers. I must, unless it's a powerful thing that's ruffling feathers, I can't embarrass myself. It's just all that stuff that I really have ingrained in myself. And so watching this particular teacher, an owner of this school, allow these kids to get up, and my daughter sat there and watched. She said, "Oh, I'll do it with you," she said to the teacher, which was awesome in itself. But as she watched these other kids get up, and some of them were 17, so she looks up to those bigger kids, as she watched them make mistakes and keep going, she nudged her teacher and said, "I want to do it on my own." And for me, it was just hit me so much. Awesome for her. I'm so happy for her. But also it was healing for me to watch that happen. And she got up
right at this moment,
right
as you're
at this point,
processing these feelings as well.
Yeah, and then the teacher had gotten up, and she was talking about, my motto, or my whole theme, is that we do it before we're ready. And I messaged you right at that moment, and I said, "Do it before you're ready." That's what she said, and it's really hit me. And it's really feeling like the first time I'm pushing through the barrier. That is where I feel I have to be ready in all ways before I do. That's been my complete foundation of life, is make sure you're perfectly ready before you do it. So it's been quite the journey of feeling like I want to run for the hills, and then allowing myself, with your encouragement and your reminder as well, to keep going and keep doing this. And it doesn't matter what the outcome is. It doesn't matter if anyone's listening, but it matters that we're growing, we're stretching, and we're keeping up to what the call originally was to do this. And we're just going to do it because we feel aligned with it. We're not doing it because we want to change the world. We're not doing it because we want to have this impact. We're not doing it because we're, thousands of people are guaranteed to listen. We're doing it because we feel inspired to do it. And that's all it needs to be at this point, or ever, really, and to get the judgment away. So it's been incredibly I've felt a bit vulnerable, and I've felt a bit I've questioned who am I and what do I have to say at all? I don't know what I have to say. You made a point of like one of your biggest fears is being a hypocrite, saying something and
Oh,
then
for
saying,
me, yeah.
yeah, something
Because
completely
also,
different.
like, because of how painful this has been,
Yeah.
we can't listen back to our episodes.
Yeah.
So we actually have no idea what we've said and what we're gonna say and what we might say. And
Yeah.
um, I guess we feel, we can wake up feeling very different every day.
Yeah.
And I think, especially in where I'm at this moment, is that I am waking up day to day different and feeling different,
Mm,
or having other things come up.
mm,
And I just feel right at this moment, or let's say the last sort of 5, 6 months, that there is a lot of stuff moving around in me,
mm.
and it can look different day to day. So I think that is something that we just needed to say, because like I think that's part of life, and that you can change what you feel and what your opinions are, and we can learn, and we could potentially do 100 episodes and listen back to these ones and go, who were those girls,
Yeah.
ladies, whatever we want to be. But maybe that's also part of it, because maybe for us, we're almost creating our own history for ourselves,
Mm.
of like, oh, look where we were,
Yeah.
12 months ago.
Look
Wow, we
how
really,
fucking worried we were. I've thought about
yeah,
that too, like thinking
yeah.
back and going, oh my God, that was right when we were just feeling so uncomfortable and so freaked out. And then it
Yeah.
will be so much like anything, 100 times down the road, we're going to be much more comfortable and much more kind of like not necessarily still saying the right things or doing the right things.
Well, I think that what will naturally happen, because of the nature of you and I, is that the journey is trying to get to know ourselves more. So
Yeah.
I hope in 12 months I might have a different sense of myself in 5 years and 10 years and 20 years, whatever that is. So
Mm.
therefore, like, we will sound different. I think the other thing that I was thinking, and why I came to you with the idea of this episode, which is just whatever it is now, but is like, I'm got so much going on for myself, and
Mm.
it's like I also want to feel what I can start to shed off,
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
letting go. And from my opinion of what has happened for you over the last week, is there's been a huge, like, shifting and cracking, and
Mm.
yes, it's not where it's not completely cleared, but as you said, you can feel a bit of a crumbling, and it's just that reminder that that's stepping in to that uncomfortable feeling. So for me yesterday, having that triggering feeling, um, with also the history of your journey
Mm.
and how you're feeling, made me go, I don't want to feel this anymore. I don't
Mm.
want to feel this, or I need to know how to work through it,
Yeah.
because it's probably going to come up again. Might come up next week, might come up tomorrow, might come up in 6 months, might be worse, might be. But I need to know what to do to start releasing that a little bit.
Mm.
Um, and it's the relationship for me. So the project's the easy part,
Yeah.
but it's the relationship, and
Yeah.
the keeping honest in the relationship,
Yeah.
rather than building the wall up more and more.
Yeah.
And because I care about you so much, I wouldn't want to do that. And yeah, I think for me, it's something to really look at. Um, but I'm also excited that I can see it clearer than I have.
Yeah.
Um, and like, I do have this big, so I've got some family stuff happening at the moment. Um, but it's also, the control thing, just seeing that in my mum is just so dominating for her. She's really struggling. She's got some things coming up, but again, I've been able to help her because I've not been so triggered by it.
Yeah.
But then also seeing, well, that's why, of course, I have this there. I'm
Yeah.
seeing it again mirrored at me, and seeing, you know, I guess how far I've come in many ways, but also how ingrained it is in me
Yeah.
to, if you're not okay, control everything around you.
Mm.
Um, and I want to let that go, and I want to work on letting that go. And this has already forced me to start looking at that with you and I.
Do you ever feel like, I mean, it's just so massive to actually hear you talk about that, because just being able to, for you to reflect and see, I know how vulnerable that is for you. I think that's a really big thing, that your walls, like I talked about in that first episode about talking about you, like you do have this really soft and big and generous heart, but also your wall of protection of it has had to be bigger than it, so many times.
So I think there's like a super oversensitivity there with the heart. So in the past, and even to this day, if I don't get met with what I'm feeling, and maybe I'm not even portraying what I'm feeling, that's like maybe there's a disconnect, but I sense it as an attack. Like I sense it as a rejection or a judgment, or rejection and judgment are the main ones that I think they are.
Yeah.
And so therefore I put the ball up, because it's like, well, you're not giving me what I'm feeling, so I better pull that back in, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's come definitely in my friendships. But yeah, the defense mechanism has been to retreat and disconnect. So it's like, don't get what I want, disconnect.
Yeah.
And then shut down.
Yeah.
And so easily the easiest option right now would be like, well, let's stop doing this.
Yeah.
That's the easiest option.
Which for me in my head, I'm like, I mean, obviously what I've gone through and realizing how blah, 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 blah. But I'd be like, why? From you, I'd be going, why? Do you know what I mean? In that, like, even when you said to me, well, what do you, like, either you bring something tomorrow or we just won't do it. And I felt that real, like, okay, that kind of,
because it's like, I can't give it any more energy. Like that's, so it's like I can't, I got to pull back at this moment.
Yeah.
Because I don't want another rejected idea.
Yeah.
So therefore it's either you bring something, or let's just call it. But also there is another thing playing out too for me, is that I don't want to bulldoze. I don't want to bulldoze something through. So I'm in a bit of this weird dancing. So for me, the sayings of do it before you're ready, feel the fear, I have done that my whole life. So I'm fine with that part.
Yeah.
That part I'm fine with. But what I don't know is what is a fear, or what is something that needs to be worked through before we can do this next part.
Yeah.
Like obviously yesterday I've been able to figure it out, but a lot of the time I don't know that.
Yeah.
So the fear and doing it anyway could also be for me feeling all the trapped emotion and doing it anyway.
Yeah. Or even feeling the feelings of rejection and doing it anyway, and continuing through, like the feelings like I've rejected your idea, which, well, let's just go with that. And then that hurt that causes, or that feeling of rejection, and then softening to, it's not because it's you, or because you're not it, or it's not about you.
And I do know that you didn't reject the idea as well. So I do know that that's what it felt like. Because it's the thought of what I've tried to plan for the reasons of trying to make it simpler, again, the control of it. To what is trying to make it easier for all the things that were going on ends up making it harder in some way.
Because I guess you're working with still a concept or an idea, and then you're jumping into problem solve and fix this and make it
Yeah.
like that, but maybe that's not even where it is. Or it makes complete sense. But I mean, for me, I paused before, like yesterday on the phone, I paused because I can feel that me saying what I said about, well, I don't feel it because of these reasons, is going to affect you. I can feel that too. And so that's why I said my people pleasing. Like I want to make sure that I'm doing what I struggle with, of being like, and not so much with you, but in general, just going, oh, okay, because I feel uncomfortable to say, well, this is actually what I feel.
And if that's, again, potentially the whole point of this, then yeah, you absolutely need to be able to say what you want to say and feel what you want to feel. And there, for me, it's feel the rejection, feel the, I think it's just being oversensitive. So I think what I got somewhere is like, just don't take things personally.
Yeah.
That's what I think. Don't take things personally and do it anyway. That's my
Yeah.
saying, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the
Yeah.
idea is not you. Yeah. It's like the.
No, it was a
Yeah.
solution to hopefully make things. And again, as I said, it was a rampage of things for me. But I could have just gone with more like we could have just checked in with each other first. And came up with the plan together rather than on a rampage.
It's actually so interesting how our differences are really shining out at the moment. Like what you have strength with versus what I have strength with, what you have struggles with versus what I have struggles with. It's really, because I have always felt that polarity in ways and similarities, and they're really coming to the forefront immediately. And it's like, bum, bum, okay, like just smack it just in our faces, both of them. But the beautiful thing is our solid foundation of what we have, of years together, of what we've been through, of knowing the sensitivities of each other, and still learning how to how do we move through it, and we can do it. It's really a beautiful, beautiful thing that we're kind of holding each other's hand through our little fears and worries,
Yeah.
It's so sweet, actually. It's actually really sweet. We're going into these scary waters together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we are the yin and the yang, and I think like we haven't interviewed anyone yet, but I do believe the yin and the yang would be a very interesting dynamic for interviewing, because we do have obviously similarities, but we do have very different things we have very different brains, really.
And approaches to everything and anything.
Yeah. And I think like in hindsight, when early on I was saying we need a third person, I think what I meant then as well is I just knew we were going to have some blocks, but I was like, but I think that the point is getting through it together, not with a mediator or not with a third person to dump the hard stuff with, or for example, where, as I said, we're just going to put our podcasts out there without someone reviewing them, seeing them, hearing them.
Yeah.
That's just what we're going to do.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to do at the moment. And until something shifts there, that's the way it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. And it's also really, we're doing it in our own way. And I think that's the way that we know at this stage how to do it, we do it, rather than overcomplicating, adding anything, making it someone else's. This is rawly our little experiment going down this path, we we won't look back and go, oh, why did we bother? We just did everything organically to where we're at. Whether that's relevant to anyone else or not, it's very relevant
Maybe
to us
it's
at this
just that
point.
if you're really struggling in life, start a podcast. The
All your
process
fears will come out.
the process will unravel as you do it.
Yeah.
And it's, I guess maybe it's the same as someone journaling or writing a book, or,
Yeah.
it's like there's maybe this is the way that the stuff needs to come out for us. I think
Yeah.
that's probably actually right. But because the thought of writing would not do it for me.
No.
But being able to just talk and let it all come out and see
And
where we
contradict
land.
ourselves and be
Yeah.
hypocrites and be okay with that.
Yeah.
That's okay.
And yeah, I think just being able to work through these blocks, definitely I'm already feeling lighter from
Yeah.
and freer from. And
Absolutely.
then therefore reinvigorated again to take the next step, because it's not as scary as it feels.
Yeah.
Even though it feels horrible in the first moment, maybe that's what the muscle is to start working for me and for you. And the more we work it, the easier it will get.
Yeah. Well, it's that breaking that brain pathway, isn't it? It's that strong highway of messaging that we've lived for this amount of time. And I know for me, certainly I'm breaking that highway up with this other scary thing, this other thing that is foreign to my highway. It's a completely different road that is it's going to take some time to break that really big highway down, because it's fully formed and busy and lit up 24/7. So I'm definitely feeling the benefits of doing this, and I think it's going to help in so many ways for me and for you. I think it's going to break through some things. It already is.
And it already has. And
Yeah.
even not even with yesterday, it already has for me. And I think also, which I haven't said into our group because I don't say anything, but I have been trying to I've been trying to listen to the videos more. What I also wanted to acknowledge is that the support from our friends,
Yeah.
I think for me was really like, because I haven't listened to many videos of that group, I haven't really seen them for a while, and just everyone has grown so much as well. And so the advice that everyone gave was so thoughtful, considerate, and true and honest. And that was really like, wow, that was very special.
I know. I on the regular get hit by how lucky we are to have each other, and it took me a very long time to realize that not everyone has that, and how incredibly special it is to have this network of women supporting us, supporting each other.
Yeah. That was a huge revelation. Not that I've not felt that, but I just haven't seen it in that way for a long time.
Yeah. By the way, we have a WhatsApp group with all our girlfriends where we just put video messages and text messages and all of every kind, and share our woes, our joys, all the things. And obviously they're an amazing bunch of women that we're so lucky to have.
And the messaging was the same as well. Like I just think the messaging was just sweet and honest and real. So, and then there's that side of things, but then this is also just waking up an honesty, I think, in myself that's happening in my relationships too, like in my marriage and in my family dynamic as well. And it's like, it's just transmuting across to all aspects. It's making some things harder, but it's bringing up harder things that potentially I wouldn't have, or I haven't been able to deal with until now.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm also feeling that in general life, that I have a lot of anxiety around things of how I'm received or whatever, and I'm finding that I'm more aware of it, really. I'm just more aware of it in a way that I can laugh at myself a bit more, or I can feel like, because it's ridiculous, it's actually excessive and ridiculous. Or I can start feeling that thing where I've seen so many women who go, like, I just got to this age and I just didn't give a fuck anymore about what people think. And I've always been like, when is that day going to come for me? Am I ever going to have that day? And I can just like see over the bridge of where she is, you know?
So I guess that's another thing for me that maybe is helping this, is that I'm an instant gratification person. I think most people are, maybe not, but I definitely have been.
Yeah.
I want instant changes, shifts, whatever that is. And these things are happening more gradually now.
Yeah.
And like that thing of like wanting to wake up and not give a fuck. I don't think it does happen in one day.
No.
I think it is this little chip, 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 and it's actually taken years. And then you're right at the end of it, and then you don't, then you don't
it's
give
like
it.
you
It's like,
realise, now I
then
don't.
you realized it was years of working towards that moment.
Absolutely.
And that's why I think we are going to be hypocrites, because we're working towards different versions of ourselves.
Yeah.
That, like what we're getting more honest now, maybe there's a lot more to go, like maybe this is just layer number 1 and we've got another 100 to go. Who knows?
100%. Like there is, like I genuinely think you keep discovering, and you keep, like in my work with older people, it's like there are some people you can see that they actually are still discovering new things and still realizing stuff, and how that in the past affected them. It's not that common though, in my experience. There's a lot of people just stuck in a loop or in a pattern of behavior or in the good old days, and now I'm not in the good days, and that kind of stuff. So it's really insightful for me to know which one I want to be. I'd like to work towards being.
And those ones that are, so that like what, constant learning, constant development.
Just a consciousness, just still conscious, having a consciousness in their twilight years. So it's rather than like, I've been doing it this way for this many years and so I continue to do this way. It's like watching some people who are still in touch with themselves, still in touch with connecting with, going, oh, I've noticed this about myself, or having any reflection to be able to recognize development or change, or it's not like you hit 60 and then you've just like got everything together. In fact, so many of us don't. You'll never have it together, right? But the majority of people I sit with are I guess from my perspective, and not in a judgment way, but just not seemingly to just to be holding on to another time, and not accepting where they're at, not accepting that their body's changed, all of those sorts of things. I don't know how I got onto this track, but
I asked, like, I just wanted to see what that looked like as an older person.
Yeah.
And yes, there's definitely the constant learning and open-mindedness, and then there's all the layers, and I'm excited to work through those layers live time with you.
I know. Me too.
But also in our lives and with our families and friends.
Yeah.
Well, I think we end it there.
Yeah.
And I love you.
I love you so much. Thanks for today.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.